What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is our little holiday catch-up video. I hope everybody had a great holiday. We've done some things and we're gonna go over that in this video here in a second, but I might as well say thank you all for liking and subscribing the videos. Something's really taken off lately. We're seeing for our first 1,000 views on a video, we've got over 250 subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing. Now, let's get into it and tell you a little bit about what we've been doing over the last week. Now, obviously, there's always low-lying fruit, like installing the Smartycam unit and this silly little washer here. It sounds silly, but when the car sits on the shelf for 5 years, some strange stuff can just go missing. This little washer helps adjust the spring pressure inside the regulator. Without it in there, the regulator just wouldn't work. Now, I'm running a decent amount of wires from the front and the rear of the car, as well as running the brake lines, as you've seen in a previous video. So now I'm putting the zip tie clamps into place so I can zip tie it all home. I also finally got an idea as to how I want to run the brake bias cable. So it would normally just go from the right-hand side of the pedal assembly to the right-hand side of the driver, but I needed this to snake back to the left-hand side for my new left-hand knob. Now that all the zip tie clamps are in place, I could finally install the brake lines forever, which is a giant relief, and they still fit beautifully. Now, of course, you can't go racing in the S.C.C.A without a transponder, so that's what I get to install here. Thankfully, I've got the old unit. Those things are worth their weight in gold now. Now, my good friend Jim did a little bit of an upgrade to my ADL2 unit, giving me this awesome backing plate that houses 2 switches and my GPS beacon, as well as a little bit of a shield you can see for my shift lights. So one of the things that's going to concern me and continues to concern me is how to package the front end of my car. Moving the dampers inboard is a great decision, but it also comes at a cost of having little to no room for all of the components I need to put in front of my driver cockpit. I've got my hand clutch, I've got my dampers, I've got my dash, and all of the wiring for all of those components. Now, one of the other things we did was we did a lot of carbon fiber work, but this wasn't heavy lifting. This was kind of pretty simple stuff. We were moving in the direction of closing up old holes, including my exhaust outlets. Now, before you guys start getting crazy ideas as to what we're doing with the exhaust, especially as far as the exits, we are going to put it back in this same general area. But for closing these off, that gave us a lot more freedom as to where to truly put the exhaust exits, because now we have a Hayabusa, so we're building a completely new exhaust system, one for the left, one for the right. And to top that all off, the tunnels are completely different. So we wanted to make sure that we just had all the freedom possible to place the exhaust system where it would be free of baking something with the heat it produces. We also had to install some bubbles on my rear bodywork because the Busa is a bigger engine. And if we didn't put these bubbles in, my cam sensor would strike my bodywork as well as my throttle cable and throttle linkage. So we just made these 2 bubbles, TJ made a mold, and we decided to bond them onto the side of my bodywork. So as you can see right here is one of the patches we had to put in the bodywork. This was here for a very good reason, but we've since done some upgrading so we no longer need this hole. This was for the beacons for my data acquisition system, but now we don't use a beacon so we pass by it every lap. We use a GPS beacon or a GPS inserted coordinate. So this was no longer needed, so we patched that one, and the 2 alongside on the other side of the car, those got patched as well. Now, closing up these holes aren't totally necessary, but it's also just a good practice considering we were doing so much carbon fiber repair. We might as well close up all of these holes. We also had to make some clearance for my new slave cylinder for my clutch. Being that I'm running a hand clutch, it just made a little bit too much contact with the bodywork. Now, with all of these repairs, we started off with what TJ called some paste, basically carbon fiber mixed in with black dye and resin, and then we laid carbon fiber mat over that with the peel ply. This process was repeated for every hole we had, including the holes for the beacon and the hole we put in for the clutch. Now, we ended up closing up the clutch hole because we just needed a thin layer of carbon, not the honeycomb layer that was preventing it from sitting properly. So now we get to take on one of the funner projects, which is reinstalling my roll hoop onto my center section. Now I know some of you people are wondering, why'd you cut it off in the first place? Well, we thought we could improve the aerodynamics, and it didn't seem like a big deal to try to cut that off and then rebond it on later. But we realized that the advantages of cutting it off and trying to redesign the back end of the car just weren't profitable enough as far as an advantage to justify doing it. So TJ and I went out of the way to reinstall that piece onto my front center section. Now thankfully, it buttons into place really well, so we were able to just pin it onto the rear clam. And from there, we just did the standard wet the mat, bond it to the front, and then once we felt that we had successfully bonded it to the front, we took the center section off and bonded the rear portion. Now we're obviously still using the paste to help thicken it up because it actually is a crack or a saw mark in there. So once we thicken that up, we began applying the flat pieces of mat with the peel ply. So even though I love my Store WF1's bodywork, this does qualify as what we'll call just a low grip surface. If I was gonna put vinyl or vinyl stickers over this, they'd really struggle to stick and stay stuck for a long time. Fortunately though, TJ recommended we try something, and that's this Loctite product, which I still don't really know what it is. It's supposedly a mold release. But what it does, for whatever the reason, is it definitely started bringing the shine back into my Store's bodywork. That, tied with the fact that it actually will hopefully be able to promote a really good bond hold or ability for the vinyl to hold to my bodywork once we're done with all the coats. Now, this single pint got us 3 total coats over my bodywork. So we have still some more applications to go, but it's still pretty amazing how well it shined up my bodywork already. Now, one of the things TJ mentioned is as you're applying this mold release, we wanted to do it in a certain direction only. Now, this was because it dries really quickly, so there's a chance that you could somehow upset the part by which way you're going, and just keeping it unison helps in a big way in the overall finish when you're all said and done. The other thing, make sure you're doing this in a well-ventilated area. I won't go down the cautions on the back of the can, but let's just say they're substantial enough. We were running the fans wide open, making sure all the air is moving through this building. And we even made sure Lily wasn't around while we were doing it. So that's gonna be all she wrote for this video. Again, I'm wishing everybody a very happy holiday season, and sorry I don't have a better video, but boy, the holidays took it out of me this year. The good news is the next video should be a pretty cool one. We've got to make the radiator ducting and oil cooler ducting that basically takes the air that's going to enter here and use it to cool my car. But until the next video, have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.